All right, so we are here with Kat Lockhart we're recording an Optics in Action podcast at the Female Integrator Mastermind Conference in Omaha, Nebraska. And I've been at the booth next to Kat from Vision Spark. So you're a client strategist.
Yes.
And your specialty or your focus area is hiring in integrators for companies. That's sort of a focus area. Let me let you explain a little better.
It's actually become kind of a sweet spot for us. We hire other seats. We have some team help tools as well. We're actually very proud that the assessment that we use that's been around 40 to 50 years, we've built so much IP around it that they're actually going to let us trademark it. By the end of the month, we should be renaming it, changing the language in it, really making it our own, and we'll be the only hiring firm out there with our own assessment at that point.
Very cool.
So it's really cool how we use it, and probably one of the coolest things we're doing with it currently, because we can take parts of our proven process and break them apart. And one of the coolest, the suite of services behind what we term the Achiever, it will be going to the TIP assessment. Talent impact profile will be
so TIP assessment is the talent impact profile.
Yeah, so that's what it'll become when the trademark is finished. What we do is we put success brackets. We know those success parameters around any given seat within a leadership team, or we build those brackets for individual companies. So let's say you're a manufacturing company and you hire a seat on a successive basis, and you really want to know, hey, who are my key players in this? So we can come in, test those, put those brackets around it, and then ultimately, every time you go in to hire, you have your people take the assessment, and you can see if they fall cognitively and behaviorally in line with the success in that role. And that's one of the key things this assessment brings to the table, is it measures for 6 mental aptitudes, 10 personality dimensions, thousands of assessments in use, only 5 may use cognitive ability as a precursor for things. And this we feel is the strongest, so we built our IP around it.
And it is so important, I think, for organizations to not just hire somebody based on their technical knowledge, but also, are they the right fit for the team? Are they the right fit for the organization? So it sounds like you're taking all those dimensions into account as you're building out those profiles for what the company's trying to hire for. Things like this. Am I understanding that in the right way, or articulating it the right way?
If I walked you through our proven process, we start with the position maximizer stage. We look at hiring a little differently, in that we feel like when a traditional recruiter would throw resumes over the fence at you. They're bringing the client they want to sell to you. We want to sell candidates the company. And so when we write a position profile, it has an attractant quality. It's more of a marketing piece. It can actually, for some people, the mindset is that, well, I want somebody quickly, or I want somebody within the next 30 days, and I want to get this done and get it on. But you're risking bringing in the wrong person, and you risk actually losing anywhere from 3 to 14 times a salary when you make that wrong critical hire.
Did I hear you right? So from 3 to 14 times the salary if you bring in the wrong person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the
that's a pretty serious impact.
That is a huge impact. Then 82% of companies get it wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a Gallup poll. I mean, it's amazing how many times we do get that wrong.
Yeah.
And one of actually our visionary's why story behind this is he had several small businesses, was terrible at hiring. He had like a 70% turnover rate, and he hired by gut. Yeah. As we all often do. We fall in love with a resume. We follow the resume to the end of the line thinking, oh, this guy has everything I want. But did you vet that resume experience out?
Right.
Because 50% of all resumes contain blatant lies. And that's an astounding stat.
There's some really astounding statistics in this. This is going to be some really good content for people to be thinking about. That there's really there's some really great statistics, and as we think about these elements of the hiring process and the failures in the hiring process, right? The process is really important, but I often say that process without people is wasted, and people without process get frustrated.
Yes.
So process is critical. The people and perceptions of people are really important as well. So tell me a little bit about why do you do this? Why is this so important to you personally to be part of Vision Spark and to do the things you do to try to bring the right people into the right seats? Why is this important to you?
Well, I tell people I'm a recovering entrepreneur. I owned my own business.
Maybe I might be someday I might be a recovering entrepreneur too. We'll see.
And I term it that way because I feel like there should be an association out there for people who are continually wanting to go down that lane, right? And I constantly am thinking, hey, I should be doing this and I should be doing that, and it's kind of like, no, but what you're doing is helping other people.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mourned the loss of my business or just the decision to sell my business. I mourned it more than I expected to.
Wow.
And it took me like 3 years of just processing and working at different things that didn't fulfill me. And I read the position profile for this position and looked at it and went, they're looking for me. And that happens with so many of our candidates. And what better way to impact a company? And honestly, as a recovering entrepreneur, I knew the disingenuousness of people coming at me, trying to sell me something just because it was a service or just because they needed to fill their bottom line.
Right.
And what I have found in Vision Spark is the people that I work with, we mean what we say.
Yeah.
And we're an all heart organization, and we're led by, if you look up the term servant leader in the dictionary, I swear you'll find a picture of Alec.
That's awesome.
He is the ultimate servant leader. I mean, he serves all of us above himself all the time.
That's amazing. It's amazing to work for a leader like that. And I'll say, I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, I've been on this journey. I left the corporate world about 7 years ago and started doing consulting, and I was on the road all the time, and I lost a client in the first few years, and I went through some depression and anxiety. I went through some, like, who am I as a person? Like, I had this successful career and I started this successful business and went through some really emotional stuff along the journey. So it's not easy being an entrepreneur. And for 6 months, I wasn't sleeping. I was barely eating.
Yeah,
it was like,
totally get that.
you know, and I was like, you know, at the time for me, I was like, God, why are you doing this to me? All right. And then COVID hit March 13th of 2020. So what's that? 3.5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And I lost every client in one day, March 13th of 2020. Every project, because my business had been built around going out and seeing clients. I lost every client I had that day. And my prayer changed from, God, why are you doing this to me? To, God, all right, I see what you did. You prepared me for this. What am I going to do differently now? Instead of going into the depression and stuff, like, what are we going to do differently now? And I went down this journey of investing in relationships, and that's why I brought Riza here from Germany. And I started looking at it through a whole different lens, and the business has started to really evolve and take off since that point. Because instead of trying to get value for myself, I started looking at it, how do we create value for people? And I think that transformation has just, for me personally, like, I get a little tear in my eyes. Like, it's an enormous transformation, and it's an amazing journey. But people who are starting a business don't always appreciate or understand what that journey might look like for them.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought up faith in this, because that was one of my hardest things with giving up my business. Was I felt I was doing God's calling for me. And my husband had asked me to move back to Central Ohio, and I also had a daughter that was very sick.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And she since passed this June.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
But she had 2 double lung transplants within 3 weeks. And, you know, and in God's grace, there's his grace is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And through that whole thing, I feel like, you know, maybe he was preparing me for the seat I sit in now. You know, that I know how personal this journey of entrepreneurism is. And I know how, you know, you get in it to take care of your family and ultimately sometimes to serve our purpose, right? And it was really heart-wrenching to me that I felt like, oh, I'm turning my back on my purpose, but I wasn't. I was going to take care of my daughter. I was going
There's taking you in a new direction too.
Yeah. So, you know, this was the ultimate, to me, it was like a great prize to win the seat that I'm in and get to interact with people like you and Kyle. And, you know, that there's so many people that have been a great comfort in my life and a great example. And it's a great community to work.
That's amazing. So, and I think it's so impactful when you think about hiring the right person into the right seat. It's not just about money and numbers and metrics and resumes. It's a person, right? And how do we engage the emotions of that person? How do we engage the cultural fit and the values alignment, all those types of things? And it sounds like you're what was the name of the profile again?
Yeah, if we walk through the whole proven process, we start with the position maximizer stage. We go to a source and screen stage. We put numerics into what we do because we're trying to take out the gut reaction, but we also it's critical to get those measures of an individual so that you know the package that you're getting up front. And honestly, when you walk through the door of an organization that has vetted you to this extent, they know you're the right person and you know you're the right person. And it makes a huge, like, welcoming presence to where you're starting off on a great working relationship from the start. And then, you know, we score resumes as they flow into us. And then we do a screening and then we send them back to our client to culture fit. So the core values come through on the position maximizer. Culture fit, we can never know your culture like you know your culture. So that's why we send them back, but we prepare you. We give you a packet of information, tell you how a Zoom call should work, you know, all of the do's and don'ts of having a conversation with somebody around culture. If we were hiring an integrator for you, we would have the visionary take our assessment. And then we have their top 5 candidates take it. And we can actually marry those results together because we know cognitively visionaries tend to be in that conceptual arena, right? Those cognitive measures tend to be up in the higher realms, whereas behaviorally sometimes they struggle with disorganization or being overly flexible or under flexible.
This is why my integrators at this conference this week is probably because I'm largely in that I fall into that bucket.
And there's and it shouldn't come with any amount of there's shame in this. It's just who we are as individuals, right? So you need that compliment as a visionary. And we know how to take individuals that sit in the integrator seat and look at your results and their results and go, okay, these will closely align with each other. And I often tell people, I wish that I could have tested my husband before marriage. Because wouldn't we love to sometimes I think we get it right?
Sometimes
like our spouses are, you know, that connecting piece. They're the opposite of us.
Absolutely.
And you both bring those pieces to your marriage. But what if you could have that same relationship within a working relationship to where your integrator is able to talk you out of the rabbit hole. You know, or into the rabbit hole on a revenue generating basis.
That's really some great perspectives. So how do people get started with you, Kat? If somebody wanted to contact you or contact Vision Spark, what's the best way for them to contact you, get started with you? What does that look like?
You can go to visionsparksearch.com. There is a form that you can fill out to contact either me or one of the other client strategists in the office. For me, it's Kathy at vision-spark.com. And I'd love to talk to anybody. I mean, it never hurts to have a conversation, and I meet some of the best people. Just having a conversation about their needs, and maybe ours is a help first organization.
Yep.
Maybe we aren't the right solve for you right off the bat. I know so many fractionals. I know so many people in so many arenas that often it's a handoff, right?
Yeah.
And let us talk about where you're at. And is it time to bring in an integrator, or is it time to fill that seat? Or do you have an integrator visionary relationship that's struggling? We can come in and put some team help tools around that and help you figure out that relationship. Or let's say you have a leadership team and you want to do something fun. We do a team analyzer, where we test everybody with the TIP assessment.
The TIP assessment, yeah, very good.
And we, for the seat that they're sitting in, and it may tell you may be surprised. Maybe somebody's sitting in the wrong seat and you need to do a little shifting.
Yeah.
But it also creates a safe space for all of you to have a conversation around why people operate in the ways that they operate, and it brings cohesion to the team.
Yeah. And I think that's so important to have real life conversations about who we are as people. We're not robots. We're not AIs. We're people. We're
Not
humans.
yet.
We're not yet. Maybe someday in the future. I don't know. But listen, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to speak with you, Kat, and being in a booth next to you today. This is the last couple of days here at the Female Integrator Mastermind, and learning more about you and learning more about what you're doing. It's just been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we're gonna be in touch on a lot of things. This is a really cool beginning of a relationship here. So again, this is Optics in Action, and where we spotlight leaders with vision and clarity. And it was amazing bumping into you and being able to interview you here on the podcast.
You too, Ryan.
As a person to make an impact. So thanks again.
Thank you.